There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
What's up, and welcome into week 8 of the program roundup, where we break down the biggest college football games of the week. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. Joined with me is Mark Hall and Ryan Tyson, and we are sponsored by our friends at the Fan Stop. Go to their website right now, click the link in our bio, and sign up for their Shirt of the Month Club. Use our promo code PGUYZ, that's P Guyz, for 15% off their Shirt of the Month Club for the first 3 months, or 15% off their polos. Guys, week 8, fun week 8 for college football. What are your initial thoughts?
Couple really good games. Other than that, I think it went pretty like the way it was supposed to. Not a lot of shocking upsets or anything like that. There's a couple here that I know we're going to talk about, but most of it I feel like was just kind of like, this is kind of what I expected to see this week.
Once we got past a pretty slow early slate, I feel like everything was electric yesterday. It was a lot of fun. Even if you landed on, outcomes that we sort of expected to land on, Alabama beats Arkansas. I guess that is an early slate game, but that one comes in. Tennessee takes down A&M. We've got just fun stuff happening all day long, and that doesn't even get to the game of the night that we'll talk about here in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can't wait to get to it. Let's start with some Big 12 football. Not a lot going on in the Big 12 since Texas and Oklahoma didn't play. However, there were some electric games and comebacks. West Virginia and Houston coming back in the last minute with a Hail Mary, winning that game 41-39. Oklahoma State beating Kansas 39-32. Good win for Oklahoma State there, a team that slipped down. TCU beating BYU 44-11. Very dominant win there. And then Kansas State beating Texas Tech 38-21. Any thoughts on those Big 12 games, guys?
I thought that go, Mark.
Go. You go.
No, I was just going to jump in. I think there is this, and I think the one that we don't have on here, Patrick, is the Iowa State Cincinnati game as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's always been this question, who's the third best team in the Big 12 right now, and it kind of cycles, kind of just is it West Virginia this week? Is it something else? And I think you could make an argument for any of these teams, I think, to a certain extent, that they could be the third best. I think Oklahoma State had a pretty impressive win against Kansas at home, underdogs. This is 9th out of the last 10 games where Mike Gundy's been an underdog at home, and he's won. So I think you can make an argument there. TCU making a statement after last week, their loss against BYU. I think Iowa State looked very good against Cincinnati. Big 12 is just kind of a hodgepodge, and it's fun.
Mark, to that point, I just pulled up the Big 12 standings, and it's so funny because, all right, UCF and Cincinnati, they're winless in the Big 12. But if you look at the entire Big 12, only Baylor and Cincinnati only have 2 wins. Everyone else is 3 or 4 wins, and then you get to Oklahoma and Texas at 5 and 6, right? The entire conference is just built off of mid. We run on mid here in the Big 12. The interesting one to me is Kansas going down at Boone Pickens Stadium in Oklahoma State. I've been a loud proponent for the fact that Mike Gundy is over it and done winning football games. He's done doing what it takes to build a program that wins football games. Well, you can't talk about how great Lance Leipold's doing in Kansas week after week like we do, and then not acknowledge that he kind of got worked yesterday by Alan Bowman and Mike Gundy and the rest of the staff there at Oklahoma State. Perhaps there's a resurgence on the way on the back half of the season for the 4-2 Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike Gundy definitely kept his job. I don't know if he was on the hot seat, really on the hot seat. I mean, some fans are definitely kind of done with Gundy, but he's doing enough. Again, That's what he does. But yeah, agreed. Who is the third best in the Big 12? I think there's still time to find out. Obviously, we were leaning Kansas up until this week.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument right now for Iowa State, which is wild, but I think there's an argument there.
Or Kansas State. 4-2
Or Kansas
just
State.
went into Lubbock and beat Tech, right?
Yeah.
It's everyone.
It's a fun conference. You never know who's going to win.
West Virginia, maybe. They just lost this, but they had a
Lose
pretty
a hard
impressive
one
win
on
against TCU.
On a weird Thursday, and now like TCU's 4-3, they dominate BYU, but they got cooked by Colorado earlier in the year. What do we do with all of
And
this?
they got beat by West Virginia, who just got beat by Houston. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's
It
no
doesn't
way to
make any sense.
logically look at it. You just don't know what's going to happen on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That is fun. It's kind of like the Big Ten back in the day,
Oh.
but the Big Ten's teams are much better typically than these Big 12 teams we just mentioned. Let's get into the Big Ten. Michigan off to a slow start again. I think every week they're kind of off to a slow start, but then they dominantly win. Michigan beating Indiana 52-7, Ohio State beating Purdue 41-7, and Penn State shutting out Massachusetts as they should 63-0. Not a lot of big drama in the Big Ten. Everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. Any thoughts?
Yeah, the teams that matter in the Big Ten took care of business as they're supposed to. Between those three, you're right, and it's going to come back to bite Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines at some point if they don't figure out starting a little bit sooner. You look at, Michigan put 0 points up in the first quarter against Indiana. Ohio State's got 13 against Purdue. That's going to be a game that matters. Penn State's got 7 against UMass. I mean, other teams in that conference are able to put points on the board in the first quarter. Here's the thing, though. All of those were fun games. I think the best game of the day in the Big Ten was Rutgers Michigan State. I had that on in the forecast, the little four-screen dealie, and I couldn't tell you anyone on either of those teams, but for a day in October, those two Big Ten teams really played ball. And
Pouring down rain.
Yeah, I mean, like real
rain.
football game,
Yeah.
baby. So that's Big Ten football, and I can't wait until you see vaunted teams like USC get to take part in it. Ryan, what'd you see out of the Big Ten?
I mean, so I thought like the 3 games that you mentioned, Pat, like this is how we expected to see. I think the Big Ten, more than any other conference, has the largest divide between their heavy hitters and everybody else. That and the Big 12, I think, probably. But like Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State are so much ahead of everybody else in that conference that it's not going to be really that fun until they start playing each other, which happens starting next week in Columbus with Ohio State and Penn State battling it out, which I think will be a really good game. So not much to say on the Big Ten. Another one that we didn't mention was I believe, Wisconsin-Iowa game. That was just like Big Ten football. Big Ten football.
Yeah, Iowa
Just
winning
like-
that one 15-6.
So yeah, Big Ten, I think things are going to get a lot more exciting next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Rutgers also pulling that game off against Michigan State, winning 27-24.
You mean
All
I
right.
can't just talk about games without giving more details about who won the game?
Yeah.
I can't
I'm
just
here. Don't worry.
speak.
SEC guys. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
The SEC is just weird. Besides Georgia, I don't know
It's a
who's
weird
standing
year.
out, and I don't know if Georgia is actually the best team in the country. Let's break down some of the big games of the weekend. Alabama defeating Arkansas only 24-21, a close game there. My Tennessee Volunteers beating Texas A&M 20-13.
My Tennessee Volunteers.
I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm the biggest
Crazy.
Tennessee fan west of Mississippi. Georgia beat Vandy 37-20.
Is it
LSU beat
Tennessee
Auburn
west of the
48-18.
Mississippi?
And then Missouri
No.
beats.
Tennessee's not west of the Mississippi. What are
No,
you talking about?
I am the
Mississippi
biggest.
is
I am the
Mississippi.
biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi.
When he says west
I
of
hear you.
Mississippi, it means the Mississippi River, Mark.
I
Come
hear
on.
you. No, I know that. I'm trying to hold on. I got to pull up.
Knoxville's
Look.
east of the Mississippi because the Mississippi
I-
runs through Memphis.
I hear
Runs
you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's why
Like,
it's
it
safe
goes
for me to say
crazy.
this.
So, okay, it runs through Memphis.
Yeah,
which
west side.
is the western border of Tennessee.
And I'm west
Which is
of
the
it.
western border of Tennessee. Okay, I thought Tennessee sort of more like broke the line. Like
It's a weird state.
it got
It's
some
a
of the
weird
river.
state.
No other
And then I
state.
was like, Patrick, there's no way you're the biggest shit west of
I'm pretty sure the Mississippi
Mississippi
River is the border for Tennessee.
It looks like
the
it
west
on
side.
this.
Yeah.
You know what? This is a fishing map. This isn't even states. That's not.
Anyway,
It's not as helpful as it could be. It's
Lost my
basically
train.
the border.
yeah,
It's basically the border.
it is. Tennessee.
So yeah, your Tennessee Volunteers, man, they take care of business. And look, it's best to just start here. Terry Bussey, give me a call. David Hicks, give me a call. Jimbo Fisher is gonzo. That game is over. They're going to be done playing that at the end of this year. You can't have the talent on talent
I
on
don't think
talent
you-
on
I don't think
talent
you
on
can.
talent and not have results year after year after year. It is the same story in College Station every time. It's the Texas game. It's the same game as Texas. We've got more money. We've got more resources. We can give you everything you could possibly want. Come play here. We have a dodo head at the helm who is unable to take all of that talent and turn it into something real. And these guys are making it to the NFL. All of them make it to the NFL. So it really is just Jimbo Fisher's inability to win games when put in positions to win games. That's what it's going to come down to. And boy, it's going to be fun to see how much they will bid for Deion Sanders' services.
Dude, I said the same thing to my Aggie friends yesterday. Tennessee won that game 20-13. Again, Joe Milton throws 11 for 22, 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Joe Milton plays poorly, bad quarterback play. He runs 34 yards on the ground. Max Johnson, A&M quarterback, goes 16 for 34, 223 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Tennessee Volunteers only scored 1 touchdown with their offense and still were able to pull out a win against Texas A&M.
It's the exact number Texas A&M scored too.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
exactly. But to your point earlier, they had more talent on the field. They have had more talent on the field for years now, and they can't
have
get it
more
together.
talent than anybody. Like they had the best draft class ever compiled this past year. Draft class, you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. Like I don't
If they're not
understand how
playing
you
Alabama or
can.
Georgia, they're man to man, they're better than everyone.
Yeah. I don't get it. Like I don't understand.
And to be sincere about it, I don't think primetime is leaving until after next year, because that's when Shiloh can't transfer again. And Shadur is going to go into the draft next year. So I think he leaves then. I'm not sure A&M has an appetite for one more year of Jimbo Fisher. So it becomes who's available this offseason.
Right.
That's going to be so fun if that opening does come available.
Yeah, that buyout, man. Ooh,
I just don't know.
It's 1 year less.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm unsure who is truly available for that job right now. So that's
It's a very unique job, man.
Yeah.
It's different. You got to deal with a lot of different kind of stuff with Aggies.
Definitely. Let's talk about a little bit about Alabama versus Arkansas.
Yes.
24-21. Alabama not dominating the Arkansas team at all.
Well,
Dude,
for like 3/4 of the game they did dominate.
You're right. They
Like
did
that's
come back.
that's
like it.
and then then something happened in the fourth quarter that I'm not really sure, because we were at Bryant-Denny Stadium and it just seemed to like start slowly falling apart for Alabama, and it just felt to me that just Arkansas didn't have enough time. They just didn't have enough time to make the complete comeback. But if there was another quarter of that game, you know, we could have definitely seen an Arkansas upset. So this Bama team is weird this year. It's very strange. It's the SEC this year is weird. I know we're going to talk about Georgia here in a sec, but like it's just, there hasn't been anybody that's just been so completely dominant that we're so used to seeing year in and year out, especially with Alabama and Georgia. And we've kind of been skeptical on Bama a little bit all throughout the season. They've always been able to pull it away at the end, but except for the Texas game. But like, I don't know. It's just not impressive. It's not what we're used to.
This week, was an eye-opener for me in the sense that I thought after the game after Texas, when they started Ty Buckner and then Tyler Simpson comes in, it's a weird week. And then after that, they go right back to Milroe. And they said, this is our guy. We're going to build it around him. And it looked really good. For weeks, it looked very good. Yesterday was the first time that had me thinking, oh, maybe this still isn't going to work. Maybe it's still not going to be enough because so the scoring went like this. Arkansas scored 6 points in the first quarter, unabated. It was 6-0. Alabama scored 24 straight between the first, second, and third. And then Arkansas scored 15 in the third and fourth. And it's in those orders, right? And if you're Nick Saban, you have to be concerned that, all right, cool, we're able to kick the shit out of someone in the second quarter. But by the fourth quarter, my quarterback who went 10 of 21 passing isn't someone I trust. That's a position he hasn't been in like a decade, maybe longer. And it really shows at the end of these games because the offense is stilted. And this might not be the best Alabama defense we've seen either. Dallas Turner, as great as he is, as impactful as he is not Will Anderson. Will Anderson is not walking through that door. And you wonder if this is the Alabama team that can really make the waves we're used to Alabama making.
Yeah, Alabama's remaining schedule is Tennessee at home, LSU at home, and Kentucky away. They could win all those games. They could lose all those games, by the way they played this past Saturday.
Yeah.
For sure.
LSU's a weird rivalry for them, so they're going to be up for that. Tennessee's a real game. Maybe we get Nico by then. And Kentucky just got the ass kicked out of them by Georgia, but
and Missouri.
Speaking of that game, Missouri beats Kentucky
Yeah,
38-21. Any notes
Kentucky
on that?
Kentucky's not that good. Like they're not that good. So
but Mark Stoops guys.
No, they're not that good. Everybody was hyping them up after Georgia dominated them last week, and they were like, "Well, Georgia is back." And I know, like, I kind of want to talk about the Georgia Vandy game here in a second, but like last week it was like, oh, Georgia's back to who they are, and then this week, are they? Because that Georgia Vandy game did not go the way that it should have gone.
Allowing 20 points from Vanderbilt, winning that game 37-20. That's not good enough if you're Georgia. If you're number one in the nation, allowing 20 points, not good enough with Vandy.
That game was closer than that score says. Like, I watched most of it in the morning because there was like not a lot of great morning games on other than the end of the Bama Arkansas game, but it was closer than it should have been. And it was basically, they were at Vandy, but it was basically a Georgia home game with all of the Georgia fans in attendance. They just didn't really look that great. They did not look great. I don't think they've looked really good all year, except for the Kentucky game, which Kentucky's a little suspect at this point. They're just not the same team that we've seen. We cannot pull them off the number one spot. They've won the championship the last 2 years. So until they lose a game, it's not going to happen. But at the same time, there's cracks there that were not there the past 2 years. So I'm interested to see what happens as we get a little further into the season with them.
Two of those cracks. One, you potentially lose Brock Bowers for some amount of time. Today, he exited the game with an ankle injury. I think that Georgia is going into their bye next week, and that's pretty opportune timing for them to get him hopefully right. But that's pretty unfortunate, and you wonder who they have to lean on because, respectfully, I think the Ladd McConkey thing is a byproduct of Brock Bowers, not the other way around. And two, major crack that I just saw looking at this, Carson Beck has a right arm sleeve tattoo. That's his throwing arm. That's not it. That's not it, man. That is some Drew Lock shit that I am just not interested in. I don't even think Drew Lock actually has an arm sleeve, but doesn't it feel like it? And for all his flaws, Stetson Bennett didn't do that. And Stetson Bennett was a championship winner. I don't think Carson Beck has it in him.
Hey, great analysis, Mark. I couldn't agree more with the arm sleeve analysis there. You guys, anything else on the SEC before we jump into the ACC?
So let's do it. I don't have a lot to say on the ACC, so please go.
Well, yeah,
ahead.
my only thing on the SEC is LSU. You really don't know what LSU team's coming out on a weekly basis. Winning
You've no
48-18. It's like you're gonna be good today, you're gonna be bad. The inconsistency there is real.
Agreed. And then also Florida just taking out South Carolina. Shane Beamer squad dropping to 2-4. We're all pretty big Shane Beamer fans, but it doesn't seem to be going well in year 2 for Shane or Spencer.
Yeah. Can you guys tell me who's the third best team in the SEC confidently? Or maybe even who's the second, but let's just say Alabama and Georgia are the best 2 teams. Who's the third best?
Probably Tennessee. Probably, I would think. I'm going through my list of SEC teams. LSU, if they decide to show up that day.
Those are the 2.
So like
I think those are the 2. Yeah.
Those are the 2, I think. It's hard to know what team you're getting with LSU. It's hard to know what Joe Milton you're getting with Tennessee.
That's true.
But those are the 2, I think.
I would agree. All right. Well, before we start talking, before we get into the ACC chat, Mark, why don't you talk a little bit more about our sponsor, the Fan Stop?
Oh, heck yeah, I will. You guys, if you're listening to us, you're absolutely going to be a fan of college football and a fan of at least some team, right? And if you're a fan of at least some team, the odds are good you're a fan of a team that is provided on thefanstop.com. You can sign up for their monthly Shirt of the Month Club. Every single month, you're getting an officially licensed, beautiful, comfortable t-shirt, long sleeve, or hoodie sent to your doorstep, courtesy of thefanstop.com. These are, as good as it gets. Like I said, they're officially licensed, and you can use our code PGUYZ, PGUYZ, to get 15% off your first 3 months of a year subscription to those shirts, or you can use that code PGUYZ, PGUYZ, to get 15% off their new College Game Day polos, which are also officially licensed, look great, feel great. You're going to want to be in these on a game day or in these as you go into work after a win on a game day. Truly a wonderful partner for us, and we would love if they would partner with you by sending you a shirt of the month every single month. Go sign up for thefanstop.com. Tell them we sent you with our code PGUYZ, PGUYZ. Bang.
Love it, baby. Thank you. All right, let's chat a little ACC. Florida State beats Syracuse handedly 41-3, and Pitt beats Louisville, upsetting Louisville 38-21. I think those are the biggest highlights of the ACC, unless I missed one. But anything there, really? I mean, besides Louisville beating Notre Dame last week and then kind of laying an egg this week.
I mean, that's the thing. We're going to talk about Notre Dame a little bit later, but it's just a weird season, man. It's strange. It's just like you see Louisville dominated last week against Notre Dame. Like they handled them pretty well. And then you just see them come out and lay a complete egg against Pitt, who Pitt is not that great. So
they had 1 win going into the game.
It's just weird. It's a weird year.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I also forgot UNC beat Miami 41-31.
That's true. Yeah,
that's the big one.
Yeah, Duke beat NC State 24-3. But yeah, let's talk about UNC beating Miami 41-31.
Yeah, that's the big one to me because UNC is undefeated, continues to pull these games out, and Miami, for all of their stupidity last weekend, losing that game to Georgia Tech, has looked like a good football team to this point. I'm not sure they're not ready. That third quarter outburst by UNC, 21 points in the third quarter, that's halftime adjustments. And respectfully to Mario Cristobal, who we've seen is not the brightest X and O-nose mind in the game, if Mac Brown is sharper than you coming out of halftime, I'm not sure you're head coach material, man. I love Mac Brown. He's a fun guy. He seems great to play for. I'm not sure he's the one cooking up stuff in the lab at halftime that should be coming out and scoring 21 points on your Miami defense. All of those guys make more money than you do, buddy. How are they not stopping this UNC offense even a little bit? Fun game, but watch out for Carolina in the ACC. We all thought it'd be Clemson, Florida State. Perhaps it's Florida State, Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Carolina's been good this year. And I usually it feels like whenever Carolina's in a big game, they always lose. They just like always fall apart at the end. And they didn't this game. They came out in the second half and they really showed what they were made of. What a tough couple weeks for Miami and Mario Cristobal. And that just the whole thing just cannot feel great if you're a Miami fan. So good stuff by North Carolina and Mac Brown and his team over there. I'm interested to see what happens with the ACC. I don't know, are Florida State and UNC in the same side, same division, or are they separate?
I actually think that they are, but
Okay.
That's the great thing about podcasting, guys, is we're just going to try and bring this up real time.
While you
Because
Oh, good.
I'm interested
The
to see
full
who.
standings don't do divisions. Come
Yeah.
Oh,
on.
cool, dope.
Come on,
Okay.
ESPN.
Classic.
So we'll see who
I'll bring
meets
this
each
up.
other.
You guys talk about it.
But I
No,
feel like it's gonna be like if they're not in the same division, if like somehow Clemson, Florida State, and UNC are all in the same division, it's gonna be freaking like Florida State and like Syracuse in the championship or something like that, because that's how the ACC rolls. So
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case, because I think there are a couple pretty good teams in the ACC.
This North Carolina team's a lot of fun. I give Mac Brown a lot of credit. I think Texas should take him back for Steve. Just do a swap him out. See what Mac can do.
I saw a tweet that was so cool. It was like, man, with the way Texas came out against Oklahoma, they really should be looking to hire someone who's proven they can lead an upstart school to a 6-0 record like Mac Brown.
Yeah, he's doing it, man. I gotta respect it. That's for sure. Making something out of a UNC program isn't easy.
So the ACC dropped divisions.
Right,
Oh.
That's
they
what I'm
did.
seeing
Yes,
here.
that is
Was
right.
that last year or was that
Yes.
this year?
22.
Okay.
And
Okay. Good.
and we will not see Florida State play UNC unless
They make it to
they
the
play in
championship.
the ACC championship game.
That could be
Here's
fun.
Florida State's. Yeah, here's Florida State's rest of the way. They're playing Duke at home next week. That's going to be a fun one, especially if you've got Duke quarterback whose name is escaping me coming back. That could be a very fun one. And then at Wake, at Pitt, who just beat Louisville, versus Miami, versus North Alabama, and at Florida. There's like one or two possible slip-ups there, but Florida State should be safe going the rest of the way, I would think.
Yeah, it is
I mean,
interesting.
They're
Go
going to be
ahead, Brian.
favored. They're going to be favored in every single one of those games, and they
And then
should be. So
And then on the UNC side, it's Virginia at Georgia Tech versus Campbell. I've never heard of Campbell. And then they close out Duke at Clemson at NC State. So if they're able to get through that, that's a tested UNC team that's ready for an ACC championship game. I
for
think.
sure, at
That last
Clemson,
three is crazy.
at Clemson's going to be tough. At Duke is going to be tough.
Yeah, those are going to be tough games.
Those
I
are
think
gonna be
there's going to be
tough.
some cannibalism there now that you say all that.
It's not at Duke. Just
It's not at Duke?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, but it is at NC State to close the year out. That feels trappy to me. That
Mhm.
feels trappy.
Totally. Yeah, it's going to be weird with these conference alignments having a lot of teams that could potentially go undefeated, and then there's like going to be tiers of the way they decide if there's 3 or 4 teams undefeated who actually makes the championship. So like head to head's one of them, but really like what it's going to come down to is strength of schedule as well, or like the opponents you've played. So that'll be interesting. You'll potentially see teams left out of the championship that are undefeated.
Well, I think that with what we saw in the Pac-12, and we're about to get to it, I'm not sure you're going to, because I think everyone's going to
They're
end
just
up
going
with
to beat each
losses.
other up.
Yeah. What we saw last night, I think, is going to be indicative of what we see in the ACC and the Big Ten moving forward, like with Ohio State playing Penn State next week.
Yeah,
Patrick,
totally
you want to
agree.
run us through these games, baby?
Yeah, let's get in Big Pac-12, baby. Okay, Oregon State beats UCLA 36-24. Colorado drops to Stanford in double overtime 46-43. Washington beats Oregon 36-33, and USC gets just demolished by Notre Dame 48-20. What game do you guys want? Well, let's start with like Oregon State, UCLA. Anything on that besides Oregon State? Playing well, good defense.
Like so both these teams came in 4-1, and I think they're both pretty solid. Like the thing about the Pac-12, which is so funny to me, is that they won't be around next year, and yet this is the most exciting conference like this year, like by a large amount. Like all of these teams are pretty good. They have pretty good offenses, and like they can all do damage to each other, and that just kind of makes like I'm looking at all four of these games, and all four of these games were fun. They were all like fun watches and like very entertaining. And so like I don't have a lot to say about this particular game. I think Oregon State is a dangerous like 5-1 team in the Pac-12. I would not want to play them. I think Washington State is dangerous. I think UCLA is dangerous. Like I think they can all be dangerous on certain days that they come. So good for the Beavers. That's I don't have much to say about that game other than that though.
Mark,
the DJ resurgence, baby.
Yeah, DJ baby. I
They're
like
dangerous.
it.
It's funny. I was gonna say them and Wazoo got waxed at home by Arizona.
They did.
So
they did.
The Pac-12 is like the Big 12 this year on stimulants of some sort. It's just more fun. Like everyone's mid, but they're good mid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Big 12 of
mid.
past, of where like when Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, they were all heavy hitters in the top 25. But now you see these teams in the top 25 and only two Big 12 teams in the top 25.
But Ryan loves those old Baylor teams.
He loves them.
I love them so much.
Yeah.
Love them so much, guys.
Guys, Colorado. I feel like I'm trying to find a week where we don't talk about Colorado, because they don't always deserve to be talked about. But every week they're just having one of the most entertaining games in college football, going into double overtime after being up 29-0 at half and losing to Stanford 46-43. Deion Sanders has gone into overtime, I think 3 times now, and every single time he elects to get the ball first. He wants the ball first. And you don't do that. You don't do that.
You can.
You can, but you shouldn't.
Oklahoma used to do that.
Cool.
Cool.
But like you shouldn't do that. That actually makes me feel worse now.
I think to your point, Patrick, is that the strategy isn't working. Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like, don't keep doing the same thing and like expecting different results. Like, try something new. This was like, I didn't actually watch this in real time, but this was comical. Like, this is one of those things that's like 29-0. They're in Boulder. It just like is like, oh, this is just incredible. We're back. And I still think like they're quote unquote back from last year and how poor they were last year. But this is a team that is like a hodgepodge group of individuals who have been thrown together, who like I don't really feel like know how to operate together quite yet. And you saw that happen in the second half against a not very good Stanford team. And they just kind of fell apart. And I don't think that Coach Prime really knew how to get his team back together. And I don't think he could really pull them back together from this, I don't know, this resurgence of Stanford football. I have no idea. I don't know how you let this happen as a coach, but also at the same time, it makes sense on why it happened to me. I don't think we know who Colorado is yet. I don't think we've known all season. And I don't think we probably will until the next couple of years.
Would agree.
And I don't think we're going to get another couple of years with
probably not
with him at the helm. I think it's next year. I've said it from the jump. And I believe that was a game he had to win. Colorado had to win. You don't go up 200 or 29-0 and give that one away. And the shots on the sideline of Coach Prime while they're giving it away are all damning. They're
Yeah.
all damning. He's just standing there in a lot of them. And that's not, he's still coaching. I don't want to cast aspersions unfairly. He's still coaching, but the vibe was off and it wasn't good. And I'll tell you, man, you got to have more depth than Travis Hunter because he can't come back from 3 games off and be limping all over the field and be counted on to be your wide receiver 1 and your cornerback 1. That's unfair to the young man. And he gave up multiple plays that you got to think if he was allowed to focus on one spot or even just pick and choose the spots on both sides of the ball, that doesn't happen in the same way. That's coaching. That's coaching. So we've ridden the Coach Prime thing. We've got to ride it when it's down too.
Colorado is
down.
Yeah, it's down. Colorado is
very down.
Now at risk of not making a bowl game. They play UCLA, Oregon State, and Arizona next. And
those are very potentially 3 L's right there.
Yeah.
Like easy. Is it at Arizona or is it in
no, it's at Colorado, but
they lost to Stanford, so
Stanford's
worse than all 3 of those teams.
Did y'all see the video of the kid crying?
Dude,
and his girlfriend like trying to he bet his tuition on it.
Oh yeah.
And she's trying to help and just like
that makes a lot more sense as to why he was down that bad because
there was some money situation
no one acts
going
that
on
way
there.
No adult.
Yeah, unfortunately she's not gonna get a nice dinner this week from her boyfriend. Anyway, let's talk about
it's not the boyfriend much longer, man.
Yeah. Hey, remember to go to thefanstop.com right real quick and use our promo code PGUYZP Guyz for 15% off their shirt of the month club or their game day polos. Washington against Oregon. This was the game we were really waiting on in the Pac-12. What are y'all's thoughts?
I thought it was a great game overall. I thought you have 2 very, very talented quarterbacks and very, very talented offenses going against each other. Oregon should have won this game. They didn't. And I feel like that was a miss on their part. Obviously it's a miss on their part, but I think it was more their mistakes that led to that outcome. Overall, just like 2 very talented teams. And I love when we get to see that. I think Michael Penix Jr. is very, very good. I think he will be, especially considering the next game that we talk about, the front runner for the Heisman moving forward, potentially for the rest of the season, but we don't know really what's going to happen from here on out. Great win by Washington. I mean, it's a solid win at home. And I feel like this was Oregon's game. And they made some mistakes that prevented them from winning it. I think both these teams are going to continue to do well in the Pac-12 for the rest of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Michael Penix went 22 for 37, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, while Bo Nix went 33 for 44, 337 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Awesome quarterback play on both sides of the field. Mark, what did you think about that game?
Sorry, I was on mute. This was sort of the game that I was looking forward to all year for the Pac-12. We've talked about, it seems like USC is sort of falling off. So it's really going to be Oregon and Washington. And I thought Oregon was going to be the team. I mean, the line ends up at 3.5 and they lose by 3. Vegas knows everything, guys. Vegas knows everything. But I believed that the Oregon defense was real enough to keep this game in check. And while they lost the game, I don't think I was necessarily wrong about that. What lost them the game truly was a Dan Lanning 4th and 3 decision. That if you just punt the ball away, you make them drive the length of the field and they have to score a touchdown. That's sometimes our coaches are getting a little more aggressive than they need to be with 4th down decision making. Sometimes the right play is the easy play. Punt the ball and count on your vaunted defense to keep the other team from scoring. That's what I would have done. And in hindsight, I think that's what Dan Lanning would have done. Awesome game. Kind of sucks that now Washington has the tiebreaker over Oregon, because I'd like to see Oregon be the one that breaks through. But go Huskies, man. Michael Penix Jr. That's your Heisman frontrunner.
Mm-hmm. Those Oregon uniforms were ugly as hell, though. So I'm glad they lost.
Part of it. It's part of it. Yeah.
Speaking of Heisman front runners, someone who is no longer a Heisman front runner is Caleb Williams and his USC team after losing to Sam Hartman and Notre Dame 48-20. Caleb Williams goes 23 for 37, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, while the beautiful Sam Hartman went 13 for 20, 2 touchdowns, 126 yards, and 0 interceptions. Huge game. What are y'all's thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm gonna let Mark go first. I'm gonna let Mark go
I don't have too many, other than this is what it is going to look like if this USC team is what joins the Big Ten every single time they play Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State. They are not built for these kind of physical matchups. Audric Estime goes 22 for 95. Great game on the ground for him. He really just sort of sets the tone for this Notre Dame team. Sam Hartman, 13-20 for 2 touchdowns, 70% passing, 65% passing, and 2 touchdowns. Gives you what you need. No more, no less, but he also is still extraordinarily handsome. You can't discount that. And if the offense isn't cooking for USC, nothing works. That's sort of the whole deal with these Lincoln Riley coached teams is, can the quarterback be a wizard? If the quarterback's a wizard who's able to make everything work, then it unlocks the whole thing. You're going to score 52 points every game. Does your quarterback have a bad night in him? Yes. Oh, you're losing. You're just losing. There's nothing else to do, because it's all so dependent on him now. Over the years, we've seen it go from less dependent on a superstar, like, the Baker Mayfield offense looks nothing like the USC offense now. And now it's all that quarterback doing the work. And we saw last night just how that doesn't work. Ryan, what did you see, King?
I'm just a little, I'm actually shocked, not really at the result of the game, but like how it happened, because, I did not think USC's first loss of the season would come because of their offense. I thought it would come because of their defense. And, as much as we hate on USC's defense, they actually played pretty well last night. They held Notre Dame to 250 yards, I think, somewhere around there. And most of that was because Notre Dame got a lot of short yardage on their side of the field. But I think it's so, I think, Mark, you hit it like nail, or you hit it exactly where it needs to be. However I want to say that.
Yeah, that's what she
made
said.
Sense. Made sense. I was trying to say like hammer on the nail or whatever, and then I was like, wait,
nope.
no, that's nail.
I hit it where it needed to be.
On the nail. This offense is so dependent on Caleb Williams, and if he is off at all, which he was off last night, and it falls apart. It completely falls apart, and their defense is not good enough to save them, and their offensive line is really atrocious, and they don't have special teams. So I mean, when you add all those things together, Caleb Williams plays not perfect, you lose,
which is okay. You're gonna three interceptions isn't okay, but not playing perfect. Caleb was gonna have a bad game. That's all I'm saying.
We have not seen Caleb Williams have a game like he did last night his entire career. So like I'm 3 interceptions. When's the last time he did that? That's his first career game that he's done.
I don't know about 3 interceptions, but when Caleb Williams led the Oklahoma Sooners into your Baylor Bears McLean Stadium that season.
Oh yeah, that's true. That was bad.
Bad.
That was there was a couple other things.
I think Lincoln had just told him about the USC move, and his head was all spinning. I think that's what had gone down there.
I think what I want to say about the USC like Lincoln Riley experience is the interesting note to me is we've talked about like all three of these teams today, like six of these teams really, we had a lot of coaching changes in 2021, right? We had, Brian Kelly moving from Notre Dame to LSU. We had Mario Cristobal moving from Oregon to Miami. And then we had Lincoln Riley moving from OU to USC. All of those places that basically got ditched by their head coaches are doing really well this year. Like Notre Dame, massive win, yeah, they've had a couple losses this year, but massive win. Oregon looks great, other than their loss, but they're right there. OU's having a really fantastic year as well. And then you look at USC, LSU, and Miami, and you're like, what's happening here? We're not really sure. And I think that's just kind of an interesting thought process on sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And like, there was so much turmoil about that like these three teams, even though we got, people got, OU got Brent Venables, Oregon got Dan Lanning, Notre Dame got Marcus Freeman. None of those were proven head coaches. We didn't really know, and everybody was like, they're gonna crumble. And that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. And I just think like this whole Lincoln Riley experiment is a very interesting story that is going to be on a 30 for 30 one day or something along those lines.
Well, look, everyone knows that we're all Oklahoma fans, so we come at it from the perspective of that. But, well, except for Patrick, he's a Tennessee
Patrick.
guy.
Well, I kind of go back and forth.
I go back and forth.
From a national perspective, the entire story at the time of the movement was, wow, Lincoln Riley is going to upgrade this USC program and bring his magic that he made Oklahoma into. He's going to take that to LA and it's just going to work. Because why wouldn't it work? You're going from Norman to Los Angeles.
You can't recruit Norman.
The reason it doesn't work is, I think Bomani Jones said this, former ESPN guy. He's got a show on HBO now. Sometime around 80 years ago, Oklahoma decided they just weren't going to be bad at football. And they haven't been. And it's just inertia. The recruiting pipeline to Texas is as strong as it has ever been. It was as strong as it had ever been when Lincoln Riley was the coach. And he thought he could just take all of that, move it to California. That's what they were buying, right? And turns out you can't really do that without all the things built in that a school like Oklahoma had, that a school like Notre Dame has, that a school like even Oregon, the last 2 decades has. Yep. There's a lot of infrastructure there that works. And USC didn't have that infrastructure. They had hired a new AD the year before who's already been ousted. That's a tough situation, man. I hope Dallas Cowboys fans are listening, because you're going to have a new head coach next year, and his name is Lincoln Riley.
And for those who think that Caleb Williams is going to stay at USC for another year, this was the test. He is not going to stay at USC the next year. He's never going to see the college football playoffs. He won 1 Heisman. He was maybe one of the best quarterbacks to ever take the field in college football. He won a Heisman. Will never get to the playoffs because he didn't stay at the University of Oklahoma.
Won't win a single conference championship.
Won't win a conference championship.
Crazy.
Because he followed
Heisman
Lincoln
without
Riley.
a conference championship.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know that he would fit with this Oklahoma team. I'm not sure the 5 is right.
Yeah, he can fit anywhere.
Sure.
If he was on this Oklahoma team, we'd be going to the national championship.
That's a conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
It really is. We've landed in the
let's keep
it became an hour-long podcast.
I think overall, like Pac-12, very, very exciting. Good shit, Notre Dame. I thought that was a gret win. And
the kick return touchdown was so nice. It's just nail in the coffin kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. And I think you have a lot of Notre Dame fans who are very excited about it, but I think you might have more Oklahoma fans who are more excited about the game. So
absolutely.
There's a we're close quote from
oh my god, there's so many. Yeah.
Lincoln's
so fun.
Caleb is standing next to him, and
looks
I'm watching
pissed.
Caleb's face the entire time, and it's like he's aware of the discourse around Lincoln saying we're almost there. And
We're
he's
close.
like, should have stayed.
Well, folks, I think that about does it. Unless you guys have anything else.
So no,
I'd say
we're
so as
good.
well. Remember, though, before you leave us, go to thefanstop.com right now. Use our code PGUYZ for 15% off their Shirt of the Month Club for the first 3 months, or 15% off their game day polos. Guys, thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for listening today. And we need to do our MVPs before we wrap it up. Mark, Brian, do you want to go first? I have one.
Brian, go ahead.
My MVP is the Notre Dame defense. This is not a specific person, just a specific team. I thought they played great. I thought they took one of the best offenses in college football, and they made them turn over the ball 5 times and just really look inept. So great job, Notre Dame defense. I thought they had a stellar game.
Mark?
I'm going to go the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. I am pretty vocal about my belief that the Big Ten is not as good as the SEC and will not be as good as the SEC moving forward, even with expansion. But whereas the SEC teams at the top are not looking their best, we haven't seen these Big Ten teams really have a problem all year long. Between Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, all of them are very well coached and they're playing great. And they're showing us what the top of a conference should look like. So my MVP is the top of the Big Ten, because next week it gets real for them.
Love that. Love that. My MVP, and apologies for the pronunciation here, guys. Alec Ayamanor, the Stanford wide receiver who had a total of 294 yards against Colorado. That is my MVP of the week.
Crazy how you let that happen. That's like a
294 yards, man.
Break after break after break.
Jesus Christ.
Unsound defense.
Yeah, man. All right. Okay. Go to thefanstuff.com and Mark, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being